I was standing in my driveway with a packed suitcase when the text came through. 4 words that would change everything. "You're not coming, Dad." My daughter Miranda had decided their Italian vacation was for family only, and apparently, after 40 years of sacrifice, I didn't make the cut. They took Troy's parents instead. Here's the thing nobody tells you about betrayal. It doesn't hit you all at once. It seeps in slowly, like water through a crack in the foundation. And by the time you realize what's happening, the whole structure is already compromised. Before we continue, please subscribe to stay updated on our latest stories. The suitcase was sitting by my front door, tags attached, passport tucked in the side pocket. I'd spent weeks planning this trip, researching restaurants near the Vatican, printing walking tour maps, even buying a new camera still in its box on my dresser. My flight to Rome left in 4 hours. I read Miranda's text again, thumb hovering over the screen like maybe the words would rearrange themselves into something that made sense. Troy thinks it's better if this trip stays immediate family only. His parents are coming instead. Hope you understand. Immediate family. I'm her father. I paid for the tickets. I planned the itinerary during late nights at my kitchen table, circling gelato shops and marking museum hours. What part of that wasn't family? My phone buzzed again. This time it was a notification. Troy's mother had posted on Facebook. I clicked it without thinking. There they were, Dale and Sharon Kovacs, standing in front of the Colosseum, big tourist smiles. The caption read, "Starting the best family vacation ever." The timestamp showed 2 hours ago. My chest tightened. Maybe it was an old photo. Maybe they took a different trip. I scrolled down. Another post, this one from Miranda herself. 4 people at a cafe near the Trevi Fountain. Dale, Sharon, Troy, and Miranda. Wine glasses on the table behind them. Her caption, "So grateful for family time in the eternal city." I counted the faces. 1, 2, 3, 4. That word family burned itself into my brain. I set the phone down carefully on my kitchen counter. Through the window, I could see the Pattersons' house across the street, warm lights in their windows. Families spending the evening together. The contrast was sharp. I walked to my bedroom and closed the suitcase. Each snap of the metal clasps echoed through the quiet house. Then I called the airline and canceled my reservation. The woman on the phone was professional and sympathetic. "I'm sorry your plans changed, Mr. Hollister." That night, I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw that Facebook photo. Their smiling faces in the city I'd dreamed about visiting. The city I'd researched. The vacation I'd organized. By morning, I knew I needed answers. I couldn't let this sit. With the time difference, it was already afternoon in Rome. I dialed Miranda's number and waited through the expensive international ringtone. "Hey, Dad." Her voice was upbeat, distracted. I could hear street noise in the background, Troy talking, the busy sounds of an Italian city. "I need to understand something," I said. "I saw the pictures on Facebook. Dale and Sharon are there with you." Silence. It stretched out long enough that I wondered if the call had dropped. "Dad, we can talk about this when we get back. You told me it was immediate family only. So what am I?" Her voice changed, got colder. "Look, Troy said you can be a lot to handle. He didn't want you affecting his vacation. A lot to handle." The phrase hit like a punch to the gut. "I'm the one who planned this trip," I said. "I bought the tickets. And Dale and Sharon paid their own way. They don't expect us to babysit them the whole time. The whole time. Like I was some kind of burden. I helped support you too. That was your choice." She cut me off. "Don't make us feel guilty about it." I could hear Troy laughing in the background, completely oblivious to our conversation. The sound made my jaw clench. "Honestly, Dad," Miranda continued, her voice getting harder. "Troy's right. You need too much attention. The phone felt heavy in my hand. I understand now. Good. We'll talk when we're back. Yeah, we will. I ended the call without saying goodbye. I sat there at my kitchen table for a long time, staring at nothing. Then something pulled me toward my home office. Every wall was covered with family photos. Me teaching Miranda to ride a bike, her college graduation, her wedding day, walking her down the aisle with tears streaming down my face. My reflection in the glass showed an older man now, but there was something different in his eyes. Something harder. Something that had finally had enough. I opened my desk drawer and pulled out bank statements I'd kept out of habit. 5 years of supporting them. The down payment for their house, $68,000, 40% from my cash savings, 60% from my 401k, money I'd put away for my own retirement, car payments I'd covered when Troy lost his first job, credit card bills when they couldn't make minimum payments, the vacation fund I'd built up for years, which had bought their plane tickets to Italy. But it wasn't just the money. I started remembering all the things I'd given up. The fishing trip with my buddies I'd canceled because Miranda needed me to watch the kids. The woman from my book club who'd asked me to dinner. I'd said no because Miranda needed help moving. My own travel dreams, postponed over and over while I funded theirs instead. The pattern was obvious now. I couldn't believe I'd missed it for 5 years. I stood up so fast my chair hit the wall. The mirror showed someone who'd been used for years, someone who'd confused generosity with love. The reflection showed a man who'd been patient and giving, repaid with betrayal. I opened my laptop and stared at my bank account, where both Miranda and Troy still had authorized user access. My finger hovered over the trackpad. One click would change everything, but I closed the laptop. Some decisions need planning, not impulse. The next morning, I was drinking coffee when my phone rang. Not a text, an actual call from a number I didn't recognize. Mr. Hollister? This is Linda Chen from Midwest Title Services. I'm calling about the Oak Avenue property, the house you purchased for your daughter 5 years ago. My coffee cup stopped halfway to my mouth. Yes? We sent you a title transfer request 3 weeks ago for a refinance application. We haven't received your signature, and the lender is asking for an update. Miranda and Troy's loan approval is contingent on completing this transfer. 3 weeks ago, right before their trip. I never saw any request, I said slowly. Our records show it was mailed to your address. The application shows they're looking to pull out $80,000 in equity. But Mr. Hollister, our title search revealed something important. The property is still 100% in your name. It was never transferred. The words hung in the air. What did you say? The deed is still in your name, sir. They have no legal claim without your signature. They told us the transfer was just a formality that had been delayed, and that you'd approved everything. I sat there in my kitchen, understanding finally clicking into place. They'd submitted the refinance application before leaving for Italy, planned to get me to sign when they returned. Keep the old man cooperative just long enough to get his signature, pull out the equity, then, what? The conversation came back to me. Troy's threat about care facilities, about selling my house. They needed my signature, and I was supposed to give it willingly. Mr. Hollister, should I schedule an appointment for when they return? I looked at the family photos on my wall, at the suitcase still sitting by my door, at the life I'd built around people who saw me as nothing more than a checkbook with a heartbeat. No, I said. Don't schedule anything. That property is mine, and it's staying mine. After I hung up, I sat in my office for a long moment. Then I went to the bedroom and started unpacking boxes in the closet, looking for something specific. I found it in the third box, Miranda and Troy's wedding album. Leather-bound, expensive, the kind Miranda had insisted on. I sat on the edge of my bed and opened it slowly. Page 1. Troy's parents with the couple, all four beaming at the camera. Page 2. Troy's extended family at the reception. Page 3. Miranda's college friends. Page 4. Troy's business partners. I kept flipping. 47 pages of wedding memories. I appeared in exactly 2 photos. In the first, I was barely visible in the background during the cake cutting, half my face cut off by the frame. In the second, the only one where I was actually featured, I was walking Miranda down the aisle. But even that photo was taken from such an angle that Troy's parents were prominently displayed in the front pew while I was already fading toward the edge. I stared at that image for a long time. Remembered how Sarah would have loved this day. My late wife, who'd made me promise before the cancer took her. Take care of our girl, Garrett, no matter what. I'd kept that promise for 15 years after we buried her. Pulled from my retirement fund, emptied my savings, postponed my own dreams, and I'd been cropped out of the memories. Sarah's voice echoed in my head. She's still your little girl. But my little girl had left me behind at the airport while she toasted wine with someone else's parents in Rome. My little girl had called me too much to handle. My little girl was trying to refinance my house without telling me. I'm sorry, Sarah, I whispered to the empty room, but I can't do this anymore. I closed the album and set it aside. My hands weren't shaking anymore. Then my phone pinged. Banking app notification. I almost ignored it, but something made me check. Transaction alert. $892. Il Convivio Restaurant, Rome, Italy. Timestamp, 3 hours ago. Miranda had used the credit card I'd given her years ago for emergencies. The irony burned. They'd excluded me from their family vacation but were using my money for fancy Roman meals. I scrolled through recent transactions. Hotel charges, boutiques, tourist attractions, all on my card, while Dale and Sharon supposedly paid their own way. Another ping. $120, Elegant Style Boutique, Rome. She was shopping while I processed their betrayal. That decided it. I opened the card management section. Miranda's name sat there in black letters, representing years of access I'd granted out of love, returned as manipulation. My finger hovered over Remove User. The confirmation appeared. Are you sure? This cannot be undone. I selected yes. Authorized user access revoked. For the first time in days, I smiled. I sat in my car outside Vincent Chen's office for 20 minutes, engine running, hands on the wheel. This was it, the point of no return. Part of me, the part that had raised Miranda through soccer games and science fairs and first heartbreaks, wanted to drive home, forget the whole thing, just be the good dad who swallowed his pride one more time. Part of me heard Sarah's voice. She's still your little girl, Garrett. But then I remembered sitting alone with my packed suitcase while they toasted wine in Rome. I remembered that phrase. Too much to handle. I remembered the promise I'd kept for 15 years and how little it had mattered. I remembered 40 years of putting myself second, third, last, always last. I'm sorry, Sarah, I said quietly to the empty car. But I can't do this anymore. I turned off the engine and got out. Vincent looked up from his computer when I walked into his office. Garrett, good to see you. How's retirement treating you? I took a breath. I need to sell the Oak Avenue property, fast. His expression changed. Not judgment, just understanding that something significant had shifted. The house you bought for Miranda? That's the one. What's the market doing? Vincent pulled up comparable sales on his screen. Market's strong right now. Properties like that in that neighborhood? I'd say 285, maybe 290. You paid 148 5 years ago, right? The number pleased me. How fast can you move it? How fast are we talking? As soon as possible. Price it to sell. He pulled out listing forms. We'll need photos, maybe some staging. The house has current occupants. Will Miranda coordinate showings? Miranda's in Italy. I have keys. Vincent looked puzzled, but remained professional. We covered listing price, commission, closing timeline. I signed the contract, my signature confident and final. I'll start marketing immediately, Vincent said. In this market, we might have offers within days. We shook hands. Walking to my car, I felt lighter than I had in weeks. That afternoon, I made another call. Brent's moving. This is Brent. I need help moving some things tomorrow morning. It's urgent. A whole house. What kind of timeline? Tomorrow at 8:15 if you can manage it. Within minutes, I'd arranged everything. Then I called Safekeep Storage on Pine Street and rented a 10 by 20 unit. First month paid up front, $135. For a whole house? The woman asked. Everything, I confirmed. After the first month, I'll need to transfer the lease to new names. Can we handle that paperwork when the time comes? Absolutely, Mr. Hollister. Just bring them in with ID. That night, I set my alarm for 6:30, earlier than my usual retirement routine. I laid out work clothes, my old jeans and boots from my contractor days, before I became someone who paid for other people's dreams instead of chasing his own. I arrived at the Oak Avenue property at 7:45, 15 minutes early like always. Brent's truck was already there, engine idling in the cool morning air. Brent was a solid man in his 50s, with the no-nonsense attitude of someone who dealt with countless family dramas without judging. Mr. Hollister, ready to start? I unlocked the front door with my spare key. The house was quiet, hollow in a way that felt right. We walked through each room, Brent evaluating with expert eyes. This'll take about 3 hours, maybe 4 with the heavy stuff. The crew started with the bedroom, wrapping and packing with organized efficiency. I insisted on helping, despite Brent's concerns about liability. I'm not that old, I said, getting a smile from one of the younger guys. Room by room, we cleared it out. The expensive sectional I'd bought them last Christmas. Troy's fancy home office setup with gaming equipment. Miranda's wardrobe filling 2 walk-in closets. In their bedroom closet, I found Troy's credit card statements showing luxury, spending while they cried poverty to me. Restaurant receipts. Golf club memberships. A receipt for a weekend trip to Chicago I'd never heard about. The doubt I'd been carrying vanished entirely. In what was supposed to be a future nursery, I found baby furniture they'd optimistically assembled for grandchildren who never came. I ran my hand over the crib rail, thinking about the family photos on my wall at home, the promises Sarah had made me keep. You all right, Mr. Hollister? Brent asked, seeing my hesitation. Just remembering things, I said. Let's keep going. By 11:45, we'd finished our last check of the empty house. Rooms sounded different now, afternoon light pouring through bare windows onto bare floors. I locked up and kept the keys, following the moving truck to Safekeep Storage, watching their belongings disappear into Unit 52C. I paid Brent cash with a generous tip. Hope things work out for you, Mr. Hollister, he said with real warmth. They already are, I replied. That evening, Vincent called. Garrett, excellent news. We have a serious buyer. Cash offer. Young couple just relocated here for work. They love the neighborhood. What's the offer? $288,000. $20,000 over asking. They're pre-approved, ready to move fast. The number was even better than I'd hoped. When do they want to close? That's the thing. They want to close immediately. They could take possession this weekend if we can manage it. I looked at my calendar. Today was Thursday. Make it happen. Friday morning found me at the title office signing documents. I met the buyers, Ethan and Lily Brennan, early 30s, optimistic young couple full of hope. She was pregnant, he explained, and they'd just started new jobs in Cedar Falls. They needed to be settled before the baby came. We love what you did with the yard. Lily said during the final walkthrough of the empty house. I didn't mention it wasn't my yard work. It's a good house. You'll be happy here. We already are, Ethan said, taking the keys. This is perfect for starting our family. The bank transfer alert appeared on my phone. $288,000. After paying off the remaining mortgage balance of $52,000, realtor fees and closing costs, the final deposit showed $213,000. I turned my $68,000 investment, most of it from my 401k, into a substantial return. More importantly, I'd taken back control of my life. Saturday morning, I woke knowing they'd be landing soon. Their flight was scheduled to arrive at 2:30. They'd probably go straight home to Oak Avenue, exhausted from the long flight, ready to sleep in their own bed. I parked across the street at 1:45 and waited. At 2 o'clock, a U-Haul pulled into the driveway. Ethan and Lily were moving in, directing movers with contagious enthusiasm. A baby crib went inside. A young family starting fresh in a house that had witnessed too much disappointment. At 2:50, a taxi pulled up. Miranda climbed out first, looking exhausted from travel, but instantly alert when she saw the U-Haul and strangers in what she thought was her driveway. Troy paid the cab driver, his face shifting from confusion to alarm as he took in the scene. "Excuse me," Troy called out to Lily, who looked up from planting flowers in the garden. "What are you doing in our house?" Ethan stepped into the doorway holding official paperwork. "Your house? I think there's been some misunderstanding." I got out of my car and walked toward them, pulling an envelope from my jacket. Miranda saw me. Her expression changed from confusion to understanding to fury in about 3 seconds. "Dad, what the hell is going on? Why are there strangers in our house?" Lily exchanged worried glances with Ethan. She was still holding her gardening trowel. "Sir, I don't know who you think you are," Troy said to Ethan, his voice getting aggressive. "But you need to pack up and leave. Now." Ethan held up his paperwork calmly. "I have the deed right here. We closed yesterday." "That's impossible. This house is ours." Lily's voice was quiet but determined. "Maybe we should call the police." I stepped forward, letting my voice carry the calm authority I'd developed during 40 years of managing construction projects. "That won't be necessary." Miranda's tone turned demanding. "Dad, you need to fix this right now." I spoke to Ethan and Lily first. "I'm sorry for this confusion. Please continue moving into your new home." Then I turned to Miranda and Troy. "The house was sold because it belonged to me, not to you." Troy's face started turning red. "What do you mean it belonged to you?" "If you check the original deed, you'll see it was never transferred into your names." Miranda's voice rose to that familiar pitch. "You can't just sell our home." "I can sell my own property," I replied evenly. "Which is exactly what I did." "This is theft," Troy was practically shouting now. "We're going to sue you." "With what money? Your credit cards got declined in Rome, remember?" Ethan whispered something to Lily, and they headed toward their front door. Their front door now. "Please go inside," I told them. "This doesn't concern you." Miranda's voice took on a desperate quality. "Where are we supposed to live? Where's all our stuff?" I held out the envelope. Troy lunged forward and snatched it, tearing it open with shaking fingers. He read aloud in disbelief. "Safekeep Storage, Unit 52C, Pine Street." "Storage?" Miranda's voice cracked. "You put our entire life in storage?" "Everything's preserved safely. First month's rent is paid. After that, the lease transfers to your names. You'll need to go in with ID and sign the paperwork. If you don't pay, they'll auction your things in 90 days. That's how storage contracts work." Troy crumpled the paper. "This is insane. You can't do this to family." "Real family doesn't exclude their father from vacations and call him too much to handle. That's completely different." "Is it?" And that's when something inside me finally broke open. Different. My voice came out louder than I'd intended. 15 years of silent sacrifice erupting all at once. You submitted a refinance application 3 weeks before your trip. Planned to pull out $80,000 in equity from my house. Were you going to tell me? Or just have me sign papers without reading them? Troy's face paled slightly. I spent 40 years laying bricks in Iowa summers so Miranda could have ballet lessons. I cashed out my 401k, my retirement, so you could have this house. And you left me at the airport like garbage because I wasn't family enough for your Italian vacation. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and held up the Facebook photo. But his parents were family enough, weren't they? While I was sitting in an empty house eating microwave dinners, you were toasting wine with them in Rome. I turned to Miranda, and my voice cracked. Before she died, your mother made me promise to take care of you. I kept that promise for 15 years. I would have given you everything, Miranda. I did give you everything. Troy stepped closer, getting in my space. 6'2" to my 5'10", using his height the way younger men do when they think age equals weakness. You're gonna fix this, he said, voice low and controlled. Or I'll make sure everyone in this town knows what kind of father abandons his own daughter. I'll tell them you're senile, unfit, dangerous even. He smiled, cold, calculated. I'll have you in a state facility before Christmas, and I'll do it with her blessing. The silence that followed was heavy. I could see neighbors watching from their porches. Lily had stopped unpacking and was standing in the doorway. I looked at Troy for a long moment, then at Miranda. Then I spoke quietly, but every word was absolute. You didn't want a father. You wanted an ATM that didn't ask questions. Well, the ATM is closed. The house is sold. Your belongings are in storage. You have 30 days before you need to start paying. Then it's your responsibility. After that, you're on your own. You're going to regret this, Troy said, but his voice had lost its confidence. No, I said simply. I really don't think I will. I walked back to my car, each step deliberate. Behind me, I could hear Miranda starting to cry. Part of me wanted to turn around. 15 years of conditioning told me to fix it, to make it better, to sacrifice again. But I kept walking. I got in my car, turned the key, and drove away from Oak Avenue for the last time. In my rearview mirror, I saw them standing on the sidewalk with their expensive Italian luggage, looking like lost tourists who'd wandered into the wrong story. The classical music station picked up where it had left off. Mozart's Piano Concerto No. 21. Peaceful, steady, moving forward. 3 months later, I was sitting at my kitchen table with my morning coffee when the doorbell rang. A process server handed me legal documents. Miranda and Troy's lawsuit. By that afternoon, I had the court's decision. Lawsuit dismissed. Property owner had full legal right to sell his own property. Miranda and Troy were responsible for their own attorney fees. My lawyer called within an hour. Clean victory, Garrett. They have no grounds for appeal. The judge was particularly unimpressed with their claim that they had a verbal agreement for the transfer. Without documentation, and given that you'd been paying all property taxes and insurance for 5 years, the case was straightforward. The local paper even ran a small article. Family property dispute resolved in favor of legal owner. I filed everything in a folder labeled Legal Victory and moved on with my day. The real surprise came a week later. I was at the county courthouse for something completely unrelated, renewing my contractor's license just to keep it active, when I noticed a dog lying on the courthouse steps. Border collie mix, black and white with gray around his muzzle. He looked old, tired, like he'd seen better days. I sat down next to him on the steps, emotionally exhausted from weeks of legal paperwork and family drama. You looking for a handout too, buddy? I said to the dog. Sorry, I'm all tapped out. The dog didn't move, just lay there, then slowly rested his head on my leg. A security guard came out. He's been hanging around here for weeks. Nobody wants him. They say he's too old. Too much work. I looked down at the dog. Too old, huh? Too much to handle? The guard shrugged. Shelter says he's got maybe 2, 3 good years left. People want puppies. Yeah, I said quietly. I know how that feels. The dog looked up at me with brown eyes that seemed to understand everything. What's his name? I asked. Tag on his collar says Sawyer. I sat there for a long moment, this old dog's head on my leg, both of us unwanted by people who should have known better. Then I stood up. Come on, Sawyer. Let's go home. The dog followed me to my car without hesitation, like he'd been waiting for someone to finally choose him. That first night, Sawyer wouldn't settle. He kept pacing around my house, old joints clicking on the hardwood, clearly anxious about this new place. Around midnight, I gave up on sleep and sat on the floor beside him. I know, boy, I said quietly, scratching behind his ears. New place. Scary when everything changes. He looked at me with those brown eyes, and I swear to God, he understood. You know what they told me? I kept talking, the way you do when you're alone and the walls are closing in, that I was too much work, too old, not worth the effort. Sawyer's tail thumped once against the floor. Yeah, well, they told you the same thing, didn't they? Said you only had a couple good years left. Like that meant you weren't worth loving. I sat there on the floor with this old dog, both of us unwanted by people who should have known better. Eventually, he settled down with his head on my leg. We fell asleep like that, 2 discarded souls who'd finally found someone who understood. When I woke up at dawn, my back was killing me from sleeping on the floor, but Sawyer was still there, still loyal, and for the first time in months, I wasn't alone. The next morning, Sawyer followed me to the kitchen. I made coffee, and without thinking, I made enough for 2. Old habit from when Sarah was alive. I stared at that second cup for a long moment, realizing I'd been making coffee for ghosts for 15 years, for memories, for people who'd never sit at my table again. Then Sawyer nudged my leg, and I understood. I wasn't making coffee for the past anymore. I was making breakfast for us. For right now. For the future we were about to build. I poured the second cup down the sink and scratched Sawyer's ears. Just you and me now, boy, and that's enough. That morning, I opened my laptop and searched best RVs for senior travel. Articles about freedom and adventure filled my screen. The next day, I went to an RV lot. The salespeople were helpful. I test drove a 28-foot Airstream, perfect size for 1 person, and a dog who'd already claimed the front passenger seat before we even finished the paperwork. I used my second car's trade-in value, plus some of the house money to buy it outright. No loans, no debt, just freedom. Sawyer took to RV living immediately. We spent the next week mapping our route. National parks, small towns, places I'd always wanted to visit but had postponed for family obligations that were never really appreciated. The morning we left Cedar Falls, my house was secured for a long absence. Mail held, neighbors checking on the property periodically. Loading the Airstream, I packed camping gear, Sawyer's supplies, and 1 photo album, pictures of Miranda as a child, before disappointment changed us both. Not out of nostalgia, but as a reminder of what we'd been, of what she'd chosen to become, of what I'd finally chosen to leave behind. Sawyer sensed adventure ahead, his excitement spreading to me as I started the engine and checked the trailer hitch. We drove through Cedar Falls one final time, past familiar landmarks that seemed smaller now. Going by Oak Avenue, I saw Ethan and Lily's kids' toys in the yard already. The house was finally filled with the happiness it was designed for. At the edge of town, we passed the old playground where I used to push Miranda on the swings. I almost kept driving, but something made me pull over. I walked Sawyer to the fence and stood there for a minute, watching the empty swings move slightly in the breeze. I hope she figures it out one day, I said quietly, more to myself than the dog. Not for my sake. Just, I hope she learns what really matters. Sawyer nudged my hand with his nose. You're right, boy. That's her journey now. Ours is waiting. We got back, in the truck. The highway sign said, Montana, 850 miles. Sawyer had his head out the window. My hands were firm on the wheel. Both of us finally free. That evening, we pulled over at a scenic overlook somewhere in South Dakota. I set up a camping chair as the sun dropped behind the horizon, painting the sky in colors I'd never stopped to appreciate before. Orange and purple and deep crimson red. Sawyer settled next to me, content and loyal, wanting nothing more than companionship. My phone buzzed. A Facebook notification. Miranda had posted something. I almost didn't look, but I did. It was a photo of her and Troy in front of a small apartment building. The caption read, New beginnings, learning what really matters. No tags of Troy's parents, no mentions of family vacations, just the two of them, looking tired but maybe, possibly, slightly humbled. I stared at it for a long moment, then closed the app without commenting or reacting. Some lessons can't be taught. They have to be learned the hard way. I reached down and scratched Sawyer behind the ears. He looked up at me with those understanding brown eyes, and I realized something. I'd spent 40 years trying to buy love from people who only valued what I could provide. But this old dog lying next to me, he didn't care about my bank account or what I could do for him. He just wanted to be here, in this moment, with someone who'd chosen him. And I'd finally learned the difference. The sun finished setting, and the first stars appeared in the darkening sky. Sawyer and I sat there together, two unwanted souls who'd found each other at exactly the right time. Tomorrow we'd head to the Badlands. After that, maybe Yellowstone, or Wyoming, or wherever the road took us. For the first time in decades, I had no obligations. No one depending on me for the wrong reasons. No one using me. Just open highway, a loyal companion, and all the time in the world to finally figure out who Garrett Hollister was when he wasn't trying to be everything for everyone else. I looked down at Sawyer. What do you think, boy? Ready for an adventure? His tail thumped against the ground. Yeah, I said, smiling as the stars came out one by one above the South Dakota plains. Me too. This wasn't an ending at all. It was the beginning I should have had 40 years ago. Better late than never.